welcome everyone. You got free range jail in Melbourne, Philip. That's awesome. All right, well, as we wait for Warren, I'm Jasmine from the Global Wealth Club team, and this evening we are going to do a live Q&A all about the up and coming event we have on the 23rd of October. And this is going to be live in Perth, Western Australia. So for all of our Western Australians. And if you are not in Western Australia, you don't have to miss out because we will be live streaming without any glitches on the 23rd. And this is going to be a full day from 8:30 a.m. to about 5:30 p.m. So this is all about the wealth and asset protection. And Warren will be able to share a little bit more, which he's here now. Welcome, Warren.
Oh, welcome. Hi, thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, I had so much technical problems getting in, so thank you. I made 4 attempts, but here I am.
Well, the 5th one lucky. That's all I got to say. I was just welcoming everyone here and letting them know what the structure of tonight's Zoom was all about. And also just advising them that we also are going to have a Q&A section at the end. So please, everybody, if you've got questions around the wealth and asset protection event on the 23rd of October, please feel free to put in the chat box. We'll have someone monitoring that. And we've also had questions sent through on the email. So welcome, Warren.
Hi, thanks, Jasmine. Yes, good to be here.
How's your day been today? Busy?
Oh, gosh, it's been non-stop. And then I literally was trying for 5 minutes to get in. It's just been an unusual day. I just had, I've been helping quite a few people as well, just with just a few friends of the whole jab and the mandates that are coming in who've been really caught out. So that's kept me pretty busy at the moment. So.
Well, look, it's a hot topic and I can't say that we weren't going to mention it tonight because we absolutely were.
Yeah.
It to be happening in more sectors by the day. And we've had a lot of people who have written through also who are quite concerned about these mandates and how it's going to affect their wealth and their health and also just being able to provide for their family.
Exactly.
So let's just hit the nail on the head and let's discuss this up and coming event. And we'll talk about some things that are happening in our country as well, especially around the mandates and this coercion.
Yeah.
So could you just elaborate a little bit more why you've decided and the team's decided to put this event on, especially around wealth and asset protection? Why now? And what will we be covering during the day?
Look, it's just one of the most important topics that you could possibly imagine right now, Jasmine. Like, end of the day, it's bad enough getting medical coercion. I mean, that's just diabolical. But can you imagine having that at the same time? You've just had an economic collapse that's happened. China's just shut this down, and then something else has shut down, and then trading accounts have shut down, and you've had a market manipulated crash, and people suddenly realise their savings, their shares, their assets, they've all been just taken or, reset, and they're just basically told, look, sorry everyone, but you just got to take a hit for Team Australia or Team US or whatever. I mean, that is a real scenario now. Like 3 years ago, when I would say this, it was so much look, it possibly could happen, but it was more seen like the same chance, as maybe the bottom team winning the Super Bowl from last place. Whereas now it's a real threat, and people are actually thinking, well, hang on a sec. I mean, if you're going to I think most people here would never believe that in a million years they'd wake up and be told you can't work unless you run up and get an experimental needle. You would have been called 2 years ago the ultimate conspiracy theorist. Like, people would have pissed themselves laughing at you, and that's now actually happening. So suddenly it's not such a far cry. So I don't have any doubt that the government are coming for people's money. I'm already seeing signs. I'm seeing manipulations to things like in China. There was a big article about Frydenberg talking about home loans and about the concern about low interest lending and about the fact that banks have been giving easy loans. Now, this is exactly what happened 2 years before the Great Depression hit. They were having easy money, easy lending, property prices were going through the roof, everyone was a trader, and then they started talking about easing the money and kind of slowing the economy down. And so they basically started increasing interest rates and lending rates and doing other stuff. So I think personally we're somewhere between 1 to 4 years away from a serious meltdown. If I had to guess, I see it happening in the next probably 18 months to 2 years. But yeah, it's literally not, it could happen anytime in the near future. And people have got time to prepare, but I don't think people have got a lot of time. That's my honest truth. I mean, I'm glad that I was preparing 5 years ago, put it that way, seeing it was coming. I wouldn't want to be in a position where I'm preparing for it now. But look, fortunately, but there's still things you can do, but the longer the people wait. So it's now because, yeah, I mean, if government's going to do this to people's health and livelihoods and they get away with it, and more than 50% in the polls are saying, well, you know, we agree with you locking us down and doing these things to us. I mean, what's going to happen when the government says, hey, we're suggesting that we reset the economy and divide the money out more to look after all the people who missed out? I mean, you're going to get like a 60% people, all the people who felt they've missed out and they've watched with jealousy and bitterness as they've seen the wealthy work, you know, get money unfairly as they think of it, not for a moment think, well, maybe they just happen to work hard for it and do smart business decisions. But it's like, no, these people are white privilege, they're business privilege, they came from elite background. You know, that's what, you can just hear the cry, can't you, Jasmine? Like, they're from the white culture. Like, hey, you know, these white privilege, these privileged people, you know, that have basically earned their money. Yeah, take it from the motherfuckers. I mean, there was an article 3 days ago called the Pandora Papers in Panama, where they're talking about these people who are tax avoiders because they've got offshore companies. Now, most people who've got offshore companies are doing it purely to protect their assets. But the journalists were pretty much saying all these people are tax evaders and they're trying to steal money from the government. And then at the end, they have this tiny little fine print saying, we're not saying that necessarily they're all doing anything illegal. So this is what you're dealing with. So, yeah, I think people would be crazy not to take serious steps to protect their wealth right now and not assume very worst case scenarios. And if people don't believe that, then in all honesty, they shouldn't be at this webinar. They should be getting on with life and just hoping that the whole thing goes away. And maybe it will. I don't rate your chances very highly, but maybe it will. That's my blunt, honest response, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, there is a book out and it's called COVID-19, The Great Reset, and Klaus Schwab has released the book. So
yeah,
no shit, Sherlock, it's happening. It's ready before us, you know, we can see it. Especially in Australia, we've clearly been chosen as a testing ground for this new world order. So
yeah, totally. I found this out back in I remember in the 1980s, I was fortunate enough to be involved in a very awake church. And there was a brilliant preacher by a guy called Barry Smith. And all this stuff happening now, Jasmine, he was talking about. And he said back in 1988, Australia is the official testing ground for the New World Order. He had proof. He had people telling him. He even said, like, we were the first country to get ATM banking systems as a test. And he gave it as an example. He told us about the microchip machine that was being prepared and had been invented in 1984, and they were fine-tuning it. And he said they were aiming for 2000, but they weren't sure they could achieve that goal. And they basically are 20 years behind schedule. But basically, yeah, they were aiming to, back then they were talking about doing all this, bringing a cashless society, taking people's stuffs away, and all the things that we're seeing now. He was talking about back then how they'd use virus scares and everything. So I pretty much was told this was coming, but I will admit, living in it, even though I knew all this was coming, is still really surreal. It's really surreal.
Yeah, it is surreal. And
yeah,
we constantly have more and more people coming through the Global Wealth Club, listening to your webinars weekly, wanting to be educated. So, you know, time is of the essence. You said maybe we don't have that long. So people need to start to prepare. So that's why we are running these live events, because we believe in what we're teaching, that we live it, number one.
Oh.
So, you know, it's the time. We need to start taking action.
Passionately. Look, it's like insurance. I mean, let's just say that I said to you, Jasmine, look, I'm going to get car insurance in about 6 months. I should be fine. Now, for all I know, 3 days later, I could have a car crash. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember having a friend who had car insurance all her life. And then she had a financial challenging time. So her bill came up to renew and she thought, I'll just leave it out. I never crashed my car anyway. I think 3 days after it expired, she crashed her car. And this happened to us with a US property we purchased. We bought it. The house got burnt down by arsonists. So we were just like, oh, that's okay. I said to her, we've got insurance. And then one of my syndicate partners had this guilty look and looked horrendous, mortified. He goes, I have to admit, he goes, I saw the insurance and I forgot to renew it. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So, yeah, it's just one of these things that the best case scenario is you'll spend a fortune on asset protection and nothing bad will happen to you. And I think you can live with that. Whereas if you protected your wealth and when this happens, you'll be very relieved. Yeah. So, we've got an amazing speaker. I just secured him yesterday and I'm really excited. He's actually Stephen Pettit. He works closely with Stephen in private banking with gold and silver bullion in Singapore, and actually helping people store that in a safe way and actually build up a non-Australian based wealth portfolio. And so I'm really looking forward to getting him to speak. So I've been trying to get him for a week to secure him, and he's agreed to do it. So yeah.
So exciting. Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. So we've got a full day set on the 23rd of October, like I did say at the start of this this webinar. And we will put the link below, but you also get updates with the team and all the details. And I believe there's a code still for the early bird ticket. So get that discount while you can. Now, Warren, you've mentioned who is coming to the event. It's it's a full day event online and in person. Would really love to fill up the seats in Perth as well. So if you are from Western Australia, please come along because it's such a great environment. We also have a lot of fun. We may even get Warren to, put his acting skills back into action. And who knows, we may make him cry again. So it's always a little bit of fun. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about these mandates that are happening. We just had FIFO workers here in Western Australia. We've also been told, I can't confirm this, but we've got Year 12 leavers, at the end of their school year where they go celebrate, because possibly it's on the cards that they'll have to go and get this jab to partake in their end of year celebrations. We've got nurses already. We've had a whole movement around Australia, people wearing white shirts and saying reclaim the line because we need to stand firm in our decision. But what can you say to people who are being mandated at the moment? Because it's a very stressful time.
Oh, it's just diabolical. I was actually talking to a doctor friend of mine yesterday, and he was just like, this is just despicable. In fact, interestingly, he's a GP who says to me, he said, oh, yeah, he said, so tell me about your webinars, because we just got talking. He said, I want to join. So he's been asking for details because he just said, this is just so bad and so diabolical. So, yeah, it's terrible. But the problem is what gives them the power is that, like, for example, the FIFO, I predicted that would happen because if you actually look at what happened, Mark McGowan in WA didn't actually himself go and do that, but all the mining bosses went to him and said, we want to do this. But of course, they don't want to be seen as the one forcing it on their workers. So they're the bad ones. So they prefer to get the government to do it. And so they say, you mandate it. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation because it's actually the bosses who want it. Yeah. So I think people are in for the fight of their lives. It's one of these things that I can give a pretty lie or say the ugly truth. I think people are in for the fight of their lives. And that's why my honest guidance is firstly, you've got to be securing your wealth and your position, a bit like ready for a siege and for a war, based on the possibility you could lose this battle. But then fight with all your heart to say no way and stand up. Stand up and actually fight dirty, as I taught in my one-day event 2 days ago. Fight as dirty as you can. Hit them with notices everywhere. But at the end of the day, I mean, what actually is the most frustrating thing for me is if most of the nurses who didn't want it had just said F you and refused to do it, and the damage to the healthcare system, they'd probably be forced to make some pretty quick concessions, But yeah, the best people can do is push back as hard as they can, hit every legal thing, be really, really tough and hard. I've managed to get all kinds of different, fight wins over my years because I just go in there thinking, you're not doing this to me lightly, But because I prepare for the possibility of losing and protecting my position, I go in there much more calm and empowered. I'm not coming from this deep fear knowing that if I lose my job or lose my license, I mean, I've been in this position before. I mean, I was taking a stand about 9 years ago on legal matters in WA. Like for a few years, I was going to court. I was having great wins. I was doing self-empowerment at the Hyatt against the government about that. And I had a law license, an accounting license, and I got absolutely hammered. I had ASIC come after me. I had the tax agents board audit me. I had the legal practice board put me through a 2.5-year audit. I actually had a cop turn up at my house telling me, he was quite friendly about it, but they were going to stop me winning any more cases, do whatever it took. I mean, I literally lived all that stuff. And I fought like with everything that was within me on this whole thing. And I did actually won a lot of these things. But in the end, I realized on this one, the best thing I can do is get myself really sovereign while I'm fighting. So in the background, I was fighting it, but I was showing up my position. I was preparing for the reality that I could actually be forced out of the legal profession. And as it turned out, funnily enough, I got to the point where we sorted things, and that because I was quite strong with them, they were quite willing to keep me in the profession. But I decided by that point, because I was now sovereign, I was in a position of choice. And I thought, you know what? They're letting me stay. It was going to be a minor penalty. It was so minor. I could have continued on as if life was normal. But I thought, you know what? I'm finished. I don't want to be under these guys anymore. I don't trust them. And I remember what this doctor said to me yesterday. He said, I don't need a license to say that I can heal you. And I said, I love you, because I said this to a chiropractor. He said, I just need my license. I said, no, you don't. I said, because if you lost your license, do you lose your ability to fix backs? And they go, obviously not. I said, exactly. So me not being a licensed lawyer or financial advisor or accountant, all it now means is that I just have to keep within certain guidelines, but I've actually got more freedom than I had when I was under that, So you may actually find as a result of this by showing up your position. But if you do win this battle, you might go, you know what, I've won it, but fuck you, I'm out of here. The fact that you could even try and coerce me, you are low lives of the highest order. Yeah. So I would be saying two things in summary. One, fight with all of your heart, fight dirty, do whatever it takes. But number two, shore up your position in the background so you'll be in choice. So even if you win or lose, you'll have a choice as to what you do. That's sovereignty.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people as well, remember everything that's happening now is there to wear us all out. So we just give in. And this is a really important
Exactly. And it's working. It's working well. One of my close awake friends, Lisa, I could tell she'd given up. Like, this is someone who up until 3 days ago was like, this is outrageous, living in Melbourne. I could tell in her voice she's given up.
Yeah. And this is the thing. We're here to remind you, do not give up. Do not give in. So get around other people who will support you. And also, look within yourself. Find the strength, because you're worth it. Your family are worth it. And we really need to really remain strong. And part of being sovereign is just knowing what and how your life should look like and make that happen. Make it happen. So,
yeah, I mean, excuse me getting really worked up and passionate, but hopefully you'll all hear where I'm coming from, everyone, because normally I'm not like that. But I'm just like, this is just bullshit. It really is. That's how I feel today.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, we know their game. We know what their plans are. They're written. So we need to ensure that we're doing what we need to do to make our goals apparent. And look after yourself. Number one, mentally.
Oh, absolutely.
Spoken about this, our mental headspace is number one right now. If you are not mentally preparing yourself for what's happening, you're probably going to fall down. So we just really encourage you to make sure you keep yourself in check. And if you need help, reach out. But most importantly, empower yourself by being firm in your decisions.
It's so true. I mean, I keep my mental health headspace excellent. I have a good team, and everyone knows, and all my team, I go, because I just speak as you hear. I say what I think. I don't hold in. And keep my mental headspace good. There's no point, in an ideal world, this wouldn't be happening, but it is happening. So there's no point me sitting there going, I wish it wasn't, it is. So now it's my response that matters, and everyone's response to push back and, but at the same time, that's why we're running this event, to actually teach people to protect your wealth properly. And hopefully, some people will come along and learn how to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we've got to empower ourselves. The Bible says without knowledge we perish. So we need the knowledge, and we need to apply that knowledge. Awesome. So we're going to get into some Q&As because there seems to be quite a few here. So
you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I've just thanks to Travis for posting.
I can read them out if you want, Travis. Or do you read it out, Jasmine?
Yeah, sure. All right. So the first one, will Warren cover in some detail on Saturday about trust, the purpose of and structures required to safeguard assets and for future generations? Are there trust requirements that people often are aware of that you need in place to make assets secure from creditors and distributable to individual children, beneficiaries?
Long question, but in simple terms, I'll certainly be covering about trusts and foundations. I'm giving a sneak preview tomorrow night, actually, in our 5:30 live stream, or 5:30 Perth time, 8:30, New South Wales Victorian time. 7:30 Queensland time. I'll be doing a brief, like 1 hour intro on it tomorrow. But yeah, I'll be covering that in depth, and I'm pretty sure Stephen Pettit will be covering a bit on it too. So trust and foundations are one of the absolute biggest wealth protection secrets that have been used. There's a very good reason why most of the politicians have trusts. Why, when they tried to change laws on trust and the wealth reforms in 1999, they wouldn't do it, even though they did all the others.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, trusts. And if you actually look at the recent Pandora papers that have come out, where they're getting stuck into that, all the rich and famous and the elite, they all have got offshore trusts and foundations. Now, they wouldn't be doing that unless they know something. And most of them have just got it because they know that having their assets, and what I think the woke people are most annoyed is they're well structured and they can't touch their assets. So, yeah, they're brilliant. Trusts and foundations are brilliant. They safeguard assets. You do have to get the right ones. They do have to be correctly structured. So there definitely are plenty of traps and all that kind of stuff, like in terms of doing it. But yeah, that's why learning, and we're going to go into this in detail. So that's a good question, and thanks to whoever asked that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, next one. What can I do to secure our home currently with a small mortgage owing? In light of the upcoming abolishment of certificate titles in New South Wales, which although on the surface looks like a benign change, you'd be a fool to trust this government. I'm also concerned for my husband's family farm, which has been in the family for generations, not mortgage. I'd appreciate any insight if you could offer.
This is why Stephen and I are not the biggest fans of properties. We think properties, Australians have not owned their properties for a long time. They've been living in the illusions thinking that they do. But if you understand the nature of feudalism, and the legal definitions and what a freehold is, people think freehold, I own it. No, you don't. Only an allodial title owns the property. So you don't actually own it anyway. So what you've got is a freehold, which means you've got possessory rights over the property to the extent of all other than the government. So the government wake up one day and want to basically take it. The only thing they have to do is do it on just terms and things like that. But in saying that, well, if they can actually bring in a full socialism takeover or whatever else, well, yeah, nationalisation of a property is a real risk. So all this stuff about the abolition of certificate titles, this kind of shenanigans has been going on for ages. Yeah. West Australia, we did something similar in 2004. Queensland did something similar in 2005. They've all been doing this. So, yeah, the issue with property is it's just something that one of the things that why I really encourage people, and is to set up these mortgages. And that's why we'll be teaching a lot about these first or second mortgages that you can self-create from an offshore company or trust or foundation of your property. So that means you can kind of basically go bang, pull the money back and things like, or do things like that to secure it. That will make a big difference to protect it. But ultimately, in saying that, if the governments just simply seize their properties, you just got to basically, this is why people got to push back now. That's something that it's more difficult to deal with because, number one, it's fixed to the land. You can't just go and set up an offshore property and hide it over there. It's sitting there fixed to the land. Number two, governments, we've just been fortunate enough in Australia to have freehold title, and governments that previously have by and large encouraged people to develop wealth in a capitalist society. If you move into a socialist society, you've got a real problem. So this is why people have got to really, really push back because, I think properties will be the easiest thing to grab. And that's why I said just about every very sovereign person I know minimises their property holdings. So I'm not saying don't do it. But just understand it's an easy grab for government with taxes and whatever else they want to do. It's an easy grab.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Thanks, Warren. All right, the next one. My question is about common law, sovereignty and tax. The sovereign being has no obligation to pay personal tax. Is this correct? Apparently, there are claims that tax came in to pay off the war.
Well, that's technically true, but that's a whole minefield to go into. It goes back to the 1915 Tax Act and how it came in and the fact that it only was meant for corporations, a 2% tax, and it was only ever meant to be for the rich. And if you go back and read the original tax acts, that is correct technically in that individuals are not liable for tax. But in saying that, good luck actually going to court. It's so well hidden. It took me and a top lawyer hours to uncover it. And even then, you go to court, no judge could understand it. And you could just imagine trying to bring that up. So in the real world, that's, impossible to basically use in real life. That's my opinion. But if the answer is right, but it's only an academic theoretical question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. I have a self-managed super fund that is in the hands of an investment firm. What can I do to protect this asset? Should there be a financial downturn in the stock market due to the Great Reset and the implementation of digital currency? And what can I say to the investment firm that handles my account? I am not a savvy investor, so I am wary of doing things myself as I do not understand the markets very well, nor crypto. And I have registered for your upcoming one-day seminar to get abreast of things. What other streams of income do you suggest, or is super still safe from the government?
Okay, so your question, and I really appreciate your question and directness. It's a really good question. And look, like I said, I do well by being very direct. And your question probably shows why most people, to me, are going to be seriously hurt with what's coming, because most people are not really self-empowered when it comes to their wealth. And like you said, you don't understand markets very well. So, yeah, I mean, you're sitting duck. That's my answer. You just got to hope to heck, but the government looks after you. That's the actual truth. You just got to really hope like crazy that the government takes care of you. The other choice is to, actually do what you're doing. And, well done for registering for it. There's also going to be another one on streams of income, which we're doing in November, which I'm going to be covering in depth, all different ways, and getting some really good speakers. I'm going to have a crypto trader, all that, to get people educated, because there's just no other way now than to be educated. Because and on the super fund, I'm actually limited by ridiculously strict laws from giving any advice on super. All I can say is my personal opinion and what I do with super. I don't use a lot of it myself, even though the theoretical things would be a good thing for me to use, because I'm getting towards the time when it would be useful for me. I don't trust it myself, and that doesn't mean I'm right. I'm not a big fan of it myself, just because anything. I trusted super a lot more when Peter Costello and the Liberal government were doing it, because the reason I actually trusted a lot more then than I do now.
Yeah.
So I think in this current world climate, I'm very nervous of it myself. And all I can really say is that the choices are, you just got to hope your investment firm does the right thing by you. But this is why Robert Kiyosaki predicts most people are going to be hit hard by the economic crash and the reset, because especially the pension and retirement funds, because there's a lot of money sitting in there, and I think the government's going to find it hard to resist. So the best thing you can do is get sovereign and empowered, like really master it for yourself and start working out how to take care of your own money. Yeah. And that's the best thing you can actually do, because once you master it for yourself, you can engage advisors and experts to help you, but you're doing it from an empowered perspective. So I engaged Sahaja and Shazar, who some of you heard in an event I did, 2 months ago, as health experts, and a few others I work with. But I'm really switched on with health. And in fact, my chiro even says to me, you're one of my most unusual clients, because I kind of tell him what I need, because I'm very educated on chiropractic, I'm very educated on spines, I'm very educated on health. But in saying that, I still see experts to guide me, but I know what I'm looking for. So as soon as I get the slightest indication they don't know what they're doing, I can move on. So if nothing else, by getting educated, you'll be able to pick advisors better to help you manage your super in a responsible way. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, next one. I'm a self-funded retiree and concerned about my investment portfolio, which is my income stream. How can I best protect that and receive an income?
Yeah, again, that's an interesting question. There's so many different ways, which is why we'll be teaching on that in the seminar in November. I mean, there's all kinds of things, and all I can say is what the wealthy tend to do. They use Swiss annuities is one thing that's common. A new thing is crypto staking is another thing that's being done. There's interest, high interest earning bonds, that kind of stuff. There's offshore kind of things. And in fact, one thing I will say is investing overseas for the educated people, there's often much better, income stream returns than you'll get in Australia. Australia, when the Standard & Poor's many years ago released the top 500 fund, Australia, as you can imagine, was down in the gumbies. Like, we literally didn't have many in the top 500 at all. Almost all of them were in Europe, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, US and everything. There was one fund, I remember, Fred Hagar's fund at the time, but made 4,132% for the year, and this was an offshore fund. So when you get educated, you can start to, and many of these over 5 years were getting doubling people's money consistently. So once you get educated and look into it yourself, there's so many different things that you can actually do. So that's one of the things we'll be teaching at the event in November. And again, just teaching people the options. But like I said, you won't find this within the normal realms of the planners and that. And the other thing too is that generally the system is very biased towards what's called sophisticated investors. So if you've got a net worth of 2.5 million or more, or you've got an income, or you've got a gross income of 250 grand or more, then basically funds are allowed to invite you into private investments and others. Whereas many funds, for example, offshore, will not let Australians in unless they're sophisticated investors, and some won't even let them in at all. But generally, yeah, there's a lot of hoops you got to go over. So getting educated is just, and that's why I think so many people get scammed on the internet, because people are seeking a quick return. But the market to invest overseas is much harder, but the returns are generally much better. That's my short answer to that.
Right, thank you, Warren.
Again, the secret is empowerment and education.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the next one is, I'm assuming the Perth Mint is not a good place to keep one's gold.
Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily. The problem with the Perth Mint right now is that it's run out of gold because everyone wants to buy from it. It's actually, all the gold dealers and collectors I know actually speak very highly of the Perth Mint. I don't use it myself because I just don't trust government. That's just simple. But a lot of gold people will use them. Would I store my own gold with the Perth Mint? No, I would not. I would, because if the government made a big, grab of it, yeah, obviously that's going to be taken. So that's one of the reasons I'm getting a guy to speak in October at the next event from Singapore, just to give people other options and things like that. So it's obviously not advice. I can't give financial advice of any kind. But yeah, and look, provided that things continue to go smooth in WA, the Perth Mint would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So, the Perth Mint is one of the better mints. That's one thing I do know. And everyone I know who's coin dealers actually say Perth Mint's got some very high quality gold, and they're quite professional in how they run. And that's why the problem with the Perth Mint right now is everyone wants to use them. So if you're going to use any government mint, they're one of the better ones. Hong Kong and Singapore have got some very good ones as well. But like anything, you just got to decide how much you trust the government. And I always like things where I don't own it, but I certainly want to make sure I've got some control.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so next one. I bought several 5-kilo silver bars in my name, and having them sorted at the vault I bought them from. I think I'll have to change ownership to my husband's trust, perhaps. Also, I am concerned the government might confiscate precious metals stored in bullion companies' vaults. Should I convert them into smaller bars, coins, and store in my house? Any advice on what I should do for my protection would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an intelligent question. It's a good one. So, well, the first one, what I can say is that what I've been teaching all my events is own nothing, control everything. So having them in your own name is never a good idea. So you certainly want to have things in a structure of some kind. So again, that's where you would want to get, number one, come along to the event and probably get some advice from someone once you've been educated. The other thing too is that in terms of confiscating, look, that's definitely a risk. In the Great Depression in 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt ordered everyone to give up their gold and all vaults to give it up, and then they'd go to jail for 10 years if they didn't. So you certainly should be taking protective action. Converting into smaller bars and coins in your house, well, it's one option, but there's quite a few different options. And so you will definitely be covering that at the event, because I have a feeling people will be wanting to know, whether do you hold private gold at your home? Do you convert them into coins? Do you maybe have some offshore? Do you just have digital gold? So all those questions we'll cover, because there's a few options and all of them got their pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. Now, Irina has asked, do we need assistance in setting trusts up?
So what's that? Well, generally it works better if you do. That's my comment to that one. So generally it's better if you do. So I certainly, let's just say I've had people try and do it on their own, unless you really know what you're doing. So if you really know what you're doing, you can do it. Generally, I find that people getting experts to help you in the beginning is the way to go. Once you get really good at it, you might get to a point where you can just hire someone, then you just basically do it yourself. But initially, at least getting some advice is a smart way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so will Warren be covering anything about the release of the Pandora Papers?
Yes, definitely.
Good. That's a yes. Do they grab property to sell, or would they even want
Yeah. I've already answered that one, so I'm not really got to go into that again. So they were just, I mean, the only thing I'd probably say is they would just nationalise the properties, worst case scenario, which means they would now have full ownership and then you'd be on there on their terms. That's pure feudalism.
Yeah. Okay. With the constant changes to the education system and real life needed skills are not getting taught at school, is there any classes or webinars that can teach parents how to homeschool their kids?
Oh, I love that question. We're actually, the last week we've been in discussions, one of myself and Edward, who's my 17-year-old son who runs all these webinars, and James, we are really passionate about helping teenagers and youth, because I can see kids are so having difficulties of being sovereign. They've been taught by their parents to be good kids, go to school, and now the parents are paying the price because the school is saying you've got to get jabbed, and then their friends are saying you should do it, and the mixture of peer group pressure and doing what their school tells them. But now most kids I know, 17 or 18, are just taking it, even with awake parents, because they don't want to look like they're ostracized by their kids, and they want to be good kids for their teachers. So kids badly need sovereignty teaching. But the good thing with kids is kids are really teachable. They don't have the baggage that our silly parents have got. So, you know, I taught my kids to be rebels from Grace and I. I mean, I was a shocking parent. You know, my kids are actually really well behaved. And I'd say, no, you guys are too boring. And I would deliberately encourage them. And I'd say, you know, I'd be pissing myself laughing when they'd play up in school and get in trouble. And, you know, I was a horrendous parent. But because of that, they're very sovereign. And so one of the things we want to do is actually teach kids to, you know, find their power, especially teach them about finances and about, you know, from young, so they don't have to work in a job they don't want to do where they're going to be coerced. Teach them about making their own choices. And I'm really glad I taught my kids to be rebels. I got so much flack from that. I mean, my family, you could just imagine, I actually had family members who normally would keep out of my life ringing me to talk to me about my parenting. I told them to fuck off, as you can imagine. But, you know, I just say, do you want me to tell you what to do with your kids? Because I will. I'll tell you all the ways you're a bad mum and a bad parent and the worst parent on planet Earth. Either that or you stay the heck out of my parenting. And then they'd go, okay, fine. So, you know, I would just turn into a feral cat. But, yeah, the point is that actually teaching kids and to be homeschooled, yeah, look, we got a real dream to do that. We've been planning this. We run a Thursday day class, but we're actually going to properly scale up next month. We actually met with a couple of people last week who are keen to help us, so we get it organised to get this going and get a regular financial curriculum for kids, get some sort of sovereignty. I mean, look, if kids want to learn, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's a really good question, you know, to get your kids homeschooled, and we'll be very keen to do something to help people as much as we can on that.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, now this will be one of the last questions from Philip. Coming from the financial services industry, it has always baffled me to hear the industry use diversification as a sole mean to asset protection. One of the reasons why I think diversification alone is not a solution is generally do not provide protection from portfolio drawdowns. For the purpose of which I manage my own global active portfolio, and I am doing well balancing risk and reward. The question, though, is, would there be any benefits from a taxation perspective with respect to the location of a broker and means to getting the monies there? My current broker is Interactive Brokers, an American broker with an AFSL. That was a long one.
It's a very advanced question, and yeah, it would take a while to answer something like that. And in any event, I mean, look, all I will say, Philip, is that there's a good reason that the wealthy set up offshore funds, and why Malcolm Turnbull set up a Cayman Islands, investment fund to hold a lot of his investments, and had location and things like that correctly set up with multiple control directorships and things like that. So there's a good reason why they did that.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. That seems to be all the questions. I'll just make sure we put out to everybody in the team if there's anything else, even from the Facebook stream, let us know.
Someone's asking about a allodial title. The answer is you can't get one in Australia easy. You have to fight to get the whole thing. You're just not going to get one. You got to buy outside Australia. That's it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Warren. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Everybody, you will get notified of our upcoming event by email. Also, join us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Please reach out with questions. But
I'll let people know about the live event too, Jasmine, that we've got given the link as well.
Yep. Let's put that there. Yeah, that will also be in the newsletter. So that will be, you'll get access to all of that weekly. If you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out, but we really look forward to having everyone there. Thank you, Warren,
Yeah.
for your time. For the last 30 seconds, what's your last little bit to just encourage people and let them know that even though things are shit stir crazy, we are going to get through this time?
Oh, look, I'll say two things. One that's an open promo for the event. One that will be an encouragement. The open promo is simple. Look, this event, I've got Stephen coming, I've got Virgil, I've got me. You're getting guys who literally, to give you an idea, Stephen these days charges 15 grand US just to get a consult with him to do any kind of work. You know, that's the kind of fees this guy charges. And so getting him to speak to an event, this is just giving back for him, literally. Like he just said, I want to give back. That's it. So you're going to get tremendous value. And I'm a big believer in that if we're going to charge people money, we want you to get like 10 times minimum what you came for. That's our aim. So rest assured you'll get that. Number two, look, the main thing is that bad times don't go on forever. I know all of you probably had times in your life where you had a health condition that seemed to go on forever and you thought it would never end, and then it just ended. Or you had a dark period where you went through a depressive period or an issue of a family, and it eventually sorted itself out. Yeah. So life goes in seasons. I mean, winter's been really long in Perth. We've got this stupid cold weather, but it's still going on in October, but it's gone on longer than it should have. But I know that it will go, you know, and eventually it'll be warmer, and then it will be warmer again. So the thing is, life goes in cycles. Right now, we're in a really shitty cycle. And the truth is, we, as a people, and I hate to say it, but we deserve it. You know, we've really had all the indications, all the signs, we've got all the knowledge, and by and large, we haven't acted soon enough as all this has been happening over the years. I mean, we've all seen this going on. So there's no need to feel guilt or grief, but it's a case of acknowledging, number one, we've got to where we've got because we haven't acted. Number two, it's a cycle in life. It's a time to learn lessons and a time to just do what you can and push back, get stronger, protect yourself. And in all likelihood, you'll come out of this with your wealth much more organised, much better protection, mentally a lot stronger. I'm sure even some of you now who were doormats a year ago are probably less doormat-like now than you were before. And if you are, just say yes. If you've actually noticed already, you speak out more. If you're stronger in giving your viewpoint. If you find already you've taken some steps with your finances, just type a Y in the chat, you know, if you've done that. If you've actually already taken some steps that you wouldn't have taken but for these times, you know. Yeah, Philip has, yes. I'm sure there's people who've done stuff. Antonia, yeah, who've made changes. Aidan, Chris, yeah, absolutely. So, look, these times come to an end. They will come to an end. People are taking steps. Just do what you can right now and don't focus on social media. Just stay away from all that and just do what you can right now. And we'll help as much as we can.
Absolutely. Well, we really look forward to seeing you all online or in person. Remember, if you're in Western Australia, it's live, so you can actually come and see us. Thank you so much, Warren, for your time. You know, it's always a pleasure to have you, and so many Australians and people globally are so appreciative of all the work that you do.
Oh, I'm just glad people are listening, Jasmine. The funny thing is, I've spent years in exile doing private seminars among high net worth and people willing to listen at little private, quiet events. And it's just really cool that people want to listen and empower themselves and make a difference. It's like I'd given up. Like a year ago, I'd pretty much said to my team, the world is so fucked. I actually said, because people, you know, are silly, they don't even want to hear it when you try and guide them. I'm just wrapped, but people want to listen. And I mean, I've got lots to share, lots to help. And all of you know that it's better to give than to receive. I mean, Jesus says that, you know, it's better to give than to receive. It's more fun. It's more fun when you've got others coming on the journey being empowered. It's lonely when, you know, when you're being empowered in a colony of lepers, you know. So it's actually great. And I really appreciate everyone for listening to me and inviting your friends and stepping up and doing what you're doing, because you are. The fact you're coming here, listening, and even the small steps you're taking is great. No, the pleasure's all mine. I'm actually really happy that people are listening. And I can talk all day and all night, as many know, until I do your head in, and you'll all want to get rid of me, turn me off and ignore me for a month. So,
yeah, look, Warren, we know that you mean that with all your heart, actually. So.
Yeah, I'm an Aries. I'm an Aries, Jasmine. You know what we're like. Aries get bored. I mean, I at night time by 10 o'clock, I'm still bored. So then I'll get on and do another webinar. And, you know, I have clients saying to me, what are you messaging me for at midnight? I'm like, I'm still doing shit, you know.
It's so funny. funny. I'm the same as you. So now that's awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining with us tonight. We'll be back next week at the same time. And yeah, stay tuned. Lots coming up. But most importantly, look after yourself, look after your family.
Yep, absolutely.
And take care. We will see you soon.
No worries. See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.